Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are going to start with the context and fixed partial lecture. So these are the contents for your today's topic. It will be including the introduction, in the various classifications of your context, the different types of context we can use for your fixed partial lecture, uses of each and everything, and the advantages and disadvantages of everything. So we are going to start with the introduction. So basically, your denture remains dynamic in equilibrium with the teeth supporting each other. So when your teeth is lost, they try to drift away from each other. The edentulous area will be compromised when you have the drifting of the tooth. These are the sequelae of your tooth loss. So basically, we avoid that by giving the fixed prosthesis or the removable prosthesis. We avoid the encroachment of the adjacent tooth on the edentulous area. So basically, the word pons means the bridge. Okay, it is the suspended member of your fixed partial denture. So as we know, our fixed partial denture has various components. The first one is your contact, then the retainer, and the connector. So basically, it is the suspended member of your fixed partial denture. So which will be replacing your lost tooth and the automatic restoring function, aesthetics, and the area which is replaced by your missing natural tooth. So this basically the constant bridge, and it is a suspended member of your fixed partial denture. As the definition given by the glossary of fixed orthodontics, it is an artificial tooth on a fixed partial prosthesis which replaces a missing natural tooth and restores its function. It usually fills up the space which was previously occupied by a clinical crown. So as the definition indicates, it is an artificial tooth made up of anything. It can be a metal, it can be a ceramic, okay, or all ceramic material, okay, which will replace your missing teeth, natural teeth, to restore its normal function like chewing or any masticatory functions. Okay? And it will fill up the space which was previously occupied by the clinical crown, that is your natural tooth. So now we should have basic prerequisites for your contact that should do so much of functions. Like first and very important function is the restoration of the function or the masticatory efficiency. It is way too important when we consider for the fixed partial attention. So it should provide the aesthetics and comfort to the patient. It should be acceptable biologically. Your body should accept it as it is given to you. Okay. So it should permit all the effective oral hygiene. The maintenance of the oral hygiene should be very easy, and it should be effectively maintained by the patient by by himself, by making sure that it is very easy to clean and maintain. So it should preserve all the residual mucosa which is underlying your contact area, the edentulous area which is underlying your contact space. So basically, it should be maintained very nicely. So basically, what we should consider before going to a treatment. The first, they are categorized into three basic categories. The first one is the contour of your ridge, residual ridge, how it is after the extraction. Second one is the space, the amount of space for your contact. It is very important. So next one is the gingival architecture. How is your gingival architecture of your residual contour? So there is a classification given by Siebert. Okay, this is Siebert's classification. It is the only classification given for the residual ridge contour. Okay, there are four classes. So the class one is here. It does not have any defect. Okay, it doesn't have any defect. So no defect. The class one, we have the loss of. So there, these are the diagrams. So we can see the class one. When we have the loss of labiolingual tissues. Okay, when the height is normal. The height of the residual ridge is normal. Okay, in class one. Only the loss of labial contour, the contour which is present labial side, it is lost. In class 2, we have the loss of height. So we don't have the loss of width, but we have the loss of height. Height is reduced apicocoronally. Okay. Then comes the class 3. In class 3, we have the combination of class 1 and class 2. That is, height also is compromised and the width of the tissues is also compromised. Okay. This is the classification of the Siebert. So again, we will classify it into class 0, 1, 2, and 3. In class 0, we don't have any defects on the tissue, and so height and the width of the tissue. In class 1, we have the normal height, but the loss of lingual and labial tissue is the same. In class 2, we have the normal width, but the height is compromised. In class 3, each and everything is compromised. So, what are the treatment possibilities for the deformed ridges? So, class 0 doesn't have any treatment modality required. Okay, we can straight away go for the uh, fabrication of the bridge or the tooth reparation. In class 1, we should go for a parental aesthetic procedures like roll technique or pouch technique, which will increase the width of your labial contours. In class 2, we have the grafts, which can be given interpositionally. So it will increase the width of the, sorry, it will increase the height of the residual ridge. So in class 2, basically we have the height compromised. Okay, width is normal, but the height is compromised, apicoronal position. In such cases, we can go for the interpositional graft. We place the graft, so we will increase the height of your residual ridge. Now we have the class 3. In class 3, we have to increase the thickness of also and the height also. So for that, we can give a graft and bone graft also in the gingival graft, which is very important for the deformity cases. So we have the roll technique for class 1. So we will discuss it one by one. Okay. So this is given in the class. So basically in class 1 defects, we'll just increase the, so we can see the defect here. Okay. In the first diagram, you can see the defect. When height is normal, we have the just defect in the labio-lingual position. That can be corrected by Rolls technique, which is described by Abraham. So basically what we do, we incise it in such a way that we cover all that area with a soft tissue. We'll roll it down and suture it. So all the defect areas will be covered in a such a way that we'll have the enhanced width of your ridge. Okay, what we do first, we visualize the defect first. We give the incision. Okay, we basically remove the epithelial tags which are present on the parietal surfaces. Elevation of the flap is done. Elevate the flap. Flap is reflected as is given in the C diagram. Okay, then the flap is rolled down. We roll it down like your chapati. We roll it down and just suture it again. So it will enhance the width of your ridge, which is shown in the diagram D. But we do not do anything regarding the bone. So next one is the pouch technique. It is another technique which was given by Langer and Kalanger. Okay. So basically we can see in diagram A and B, we have the soft tissue thickness flap is raised by using the split thickness flap. So we can use it. We reflect both the sides, which is seen in the B diagram. Okay. Then we cut it down. We cut the small amount of graft material and place it on the defect area and suture it, which is given in C diagram. So we'll have the proper width of your labiolingual tissues. So basically, okay, after that, we suture the flap in place. So for class 2, we have the interpositional graft. Now we have the defect in the height. So what we do, we reflect the tissues depart away from each other, position the graft in between and suture it in such a way that your height of the prepared, the height of your bony defect is controlled in such a way that you have the proper width and the height of the ear tissues. So now we have the one graph for class 3, which is given by the C1. It is very difficult technique. It is very sensitive technique to do actually. Okay. In this technique, we have to increase the height and the width. So basically, it is very done in the compromised patients, like when we don't have the height and width of the patient. Basically, the defect with the abutment. Hello. The defect with the abutment team is prepared in such a way that we have the recipient bed prepared by removing. So basically, the epithelium can be reduced in such a way that the defect can be seen, visualized properly. We prepare the teeth in such a way that it will receive a provisional restoration over it. Okay. After that, we prepare the bed. The bed is prepared as seen in the V diagram. Then the striation cuts will be given on the diagram. After that, you place the graph in between and switch.
मला
it.
चांगले गट
So you
काढून
have the
ठेवतात
increase height and
बिना
width
पाणी
of the increase height and width of your potential area. Now the
मधलं दाबा कशाला बघत बसतो तुम्हाला एक काम
now we have the Pontic space. So basically, we need a proper amount of Pontic space in between your adjacent abutments. So basically, if it is not there, we have to do many procedures like orthodontic procedures. We can go for a drifting of the tooth, supernumerary tooth, which are present. Drifting the Pontic spaces properly. So basically, while doing that, we make sure that some disturbance is there, sorry. Okay, for doing that, we have the various orthodontic procedures can be done. We can use it to correct the angulation of your molar. What happens basically when you have a edentulous area, your teeth try to drift away, mesially or distally. We lose the teeth in such a, we lose the Pontic space in such a way that we have the compromised area for the replacement of the fixed partial denture. So we can have the drifting of the tooth and the supernumerary tooth. Supereruption of the tooth can be seen in the A and B diagram. So we have to so the third main criteria for the preservation of the architecture is basically after the tooth, after the extraction of the tooth, we can basically go for a bone augmentation if it is required for the maintaining the structure of the periodontal or the restoring immediate function also. We can give a tooth immediately after the extraction so that the gingival architecture can be preserved in such a way that we have the natural looking aesthetics for your natural tooth. So basically the Pontic designs should have all the biologic, mechanical and aesthetic consideration. The first biologic means should have the cleansable properties of the tissue, so it will be easy to clean and maintain. Okay. The next point will be it should be able to assess your abutment tool whenever it is required. The assessment of the tooth can be easily maintained. There should not be any pressure on your ridge when it is in function. If it is exerting the pressure, more amount of pressure on the tooth, then what will happen? We have the impingement of the periodontal tissues and there will be periodontal changes which will be having a bone loss and there will be gradually a gap in between and it is very difficult to maintain. In mechanical, we have the rigidity, the strength and the resistance to the fracture. In aesthetic, we should have all the normally looking tooth, the natural looking tooth should be there. It should have the proper appearance, proper space for the porcelain also and the metallic part also. So the emergence profile for the aesthetics is very important. It should look like a natural tooth which is emerging from the socket. So it should be achieved for your Pontic design. The first one is the biological considerations. So basically the Pontic and the ridge contact plays very important role in this biological consideration. So basically we have the Pontic ridge contact. There are various types of Pontic which will be having the contact with the some amount of tissues and there are various Pontic which doesn't have any contact with the your carotid tissues or the ridge. So basically, we can make sure that while selecting any design, the appropriate consideration it should be considered properly so that it doesn't have any ulceration or any gingival problems. So the oral hygiene instruction should be told to each and every patient to maintain and massage the gingivitis in such a way that there should not be any food accumulation or impingement on the root surface. Now we have the various materials for the context, so we can go for highly aesthetic materials, the strength wise, the rigidity wise. Then the most important part is the longevity, the service period of your contact material, which can provide you more amount of years for your fixed partial denture. The biocompatibility is vital role. If it is not compatible, then you have a problem with your fixed partial denture. Now the main important factor is the occlusal forces. So basically there are very parafunctional forces present in various patients. So basically parafunctional habits will be your bruxism, for example. When patient try to chew your anterior and posterior teeth in such a way that it will get abraded very badly. So maybe make sure that it doesn't have that much of amount of strength for and the rigidity for your material. So the mechanical consideration, the second point, it should be rigid. It should avoid all the movements during the mastication or the parafunctional. It should avoid impingement of the gingival. It should cause unnecessary stresses on the material. So all the occlusal contact should not fall in the connector junction. If it is falling in the connector junction, there will be a problem for your
What?
there will be a problem for your connectors, and the periodontal areas below your connector will be having a swollen gums. So basically, we should avoid all the sharp line angles. Otherwise, it will tend to fracture. The rigidity of the teeth will be compromised. Okay. So you should have the proper uniformity of the veneer material when we go for the veneering of the porcelain crowns. We have the aesthetic consideration. So basically, aesthetic consideration should it should mimic your natural tooth in such a way that the gingival interferences, the incisor length, and the nasal width should be in such a way that it should look like a natural tooth. It should emerging from a proper socket in such a way so the aesthetics will be far behind the excellence. So now we have the gingival interference. The most there should not be any interferences seen between your gingival tissues and the pontic area which is contacted with the tooth surface or the ridge part. So basically we can see in the diagram, which is V diagram. So we have the tissue ridge contact is in such a way that there will be a very easy way to maintain it also, and it should like it is coming out of your socket, and it should look like natural. Okay. Like your A diagram, you can see that we have two, that is we can see two arrows in this A diagram, the first and the second, but the second one looks more natural when compared to the first one, the first premolar. Second premolar looks more natural when compared to the first one because it looks like emerging from the socket. Okay, it's very nicely done. We can have the incisional length which is adequate. If it is not adequate, we'll have the problem in the aesthetics. Okay. It will have the inadequate contours. It is very difficult to maintain. There will be interruption of the foot in between. If the height of the incisor length is decreased, which is given in the H in each and every diagram. When we have the we can see a diagram A where we have a proper incisional length present for your. When we compromise it, we have the area beneath your cervical line which will have the foot trapment present and which is not acceptable by the patient aesthetically. So if we go for the incision, we can see now. You can see here the patient's image is very ugly. You can see the ridge, the bridge properly. A 4-unit bridge can be seen, which is having gingival contours, but it doesn't look like natural tooth or natural tooth emerging from the socket. It is very ugly. So don't do it. While doing it, make sure that you use a gingival porcelain whenever is required. If it is not, the defect is more, we can go for the any surgical procedures like roll technique, the pouch technique, or the Siebert's technique to maintain the width and height of the gingivals. The major distal width and the areas which are present can be maintained in such a way that we should have natural aesthetics patient. Same thing for the major distal width. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now the classification of the contact. It is very important. It is taken from the Rosenstiel book. So basically, we have the classification derived in such a way that the contact of the mucosa or the non-mucosal contact, the contact of your contact to your tooth is basically checked. The PPT is visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Basically the classification is derived in such a way that the contact of the mucosa, your contact is in contact with the mucosa or not. Okay. According to that classification, it is divided into two categories: the mucosal contact and the non-mucosal contact. The mucosal contact are classified again into four classes: the saddle contact, the modified saddle contact, the ridge-lap contact, and the modified ridge-lap contact. The contact which doesn't have any contact with the residual ridge or the mucosa are sanitary contact, modified sanitary, that is also known as hygienic contact, and the bullet contact. So, according to the Tillman, the contact can be derived it is classified into various categories depending upon the shape, material, the way of fabrication. Okay. So basically, depending upon the shape and the surface of contact, is again divided into the categories like spheroidal, conical, ridge-lap, modified ridge-lap, and the hygienic contact. It will be discussed in the next slides. Based on the materials which can be used to fabricate the contact, it is again classified into the all ceramic material, all metal material, the metal porcelain resins, and the reinforced composite. All the material which can be used to fabricate a FPD is used for your contact fabrication. So now we'll see all the contacts one by one. The first contact will be a ridge lap contact. So basically it covers both the areas of your ridge. Okay, from anterior side to the posterior side, it covers all the areas. It is concave in shape. It envelops the both sides like buccal and the lingual of the ridge. Okay, both the side of the ridge will be enveloped with the help of a ridge lap or the saddle type of contact. It looks like natural teeth. It replaces all the contours of the missing teeth. Okay, the only difference between ridge lap and the modified ridge lap is the position of your contact, because it covers all the areas from buccal to the lingual. It is very difficult to clean because in this area it is very difficult to clean. So the your floss will not go beyond the tissue facing contact area. So that's why it is difficult to maintain. It can cause the inflammation. Now we can see the inverted uh, in the diagram, which can be seen next to your ACE diagram. Then we can see a 3-unit bridge. In this bridge, we have the contact area which will cover the on both the sides. There can be a food lodgement and the inflammation present. There is a modification of the ridge line to maintain the periodontal conditions and the inflammation to control by the contact. So we can see the area which is covered by the modified ridge. Now we doesn't have any covering area present by your modified ridge lab in the lingual aspect or the palatal aspect. Okay. Only there will be contact in the buccal or the labial aspect. It is the only difference between ridge lab and the modified ridge. Thus, it provides more cleansing surface for the areas for your maintenance of the contact region. We can see the area of contact in the B slide, which is given on the right side. So the area of contact is again marked in the striated lines in the dark areas, which can be an area of contact which is only on the buccal or the labial surface of the tooth. So basically, it eliminates the same thing, the position of the lingual surfaces in such a way that it will have the deflecting contours. It will provide the food impaction and the minimal plaque accumulation. Okay, so basically, it is very important when compared to the aesthetics and the biological consideration when taking into the consideration. Okay, next point is your over pointing. So over pointing is given by the Jive in the 1933. So basically, ovate contact is given when we have the aesthetics a prime concern. And the aesthetics is very important in such a way that your tooth should look like it is emerging from the socket. You can see it in this diagram. So basically, the advantage of the ovate contact is the first and foremost is you should have the superior aesthetics. Okay. So basically, it is given when we have the extraction done. After the extraction, we prefer the ovate contact. So all the gingival contours will cover the contact area in such a way that your tooth or the fixed partial denture will look like it is emerging from the socket. So it requires a wide ridge to perform the surgery or the extraction. It is possible to which is indicated in the ridge augmentation procedure also. Now we have the conical contact. It is also known as egg-shaped or the bullish-shaped contact. It is also a heart-shaped contact. We can see it is a heart-shaped. So basically, it is a sanitary modification of a sanitary contact. It is also known as a sanitary dummy. So basically, we have a single point contact on your ridge, not buccally, not lingually, at the center of your ridge. Okay, the contact we can see it in the last corner diagram. The contact is only present on the center of your residual ridge. Only single point contact is present. It is way too biologically acceptable by the patient when considered with the other type of contacts, which are contacting mucosal contact type contact. So we have the increased hygiene to access buccal and lingual surfaces. Okay, it can be cleaned with the help of your cleansing aids. Okay. So there are various ridges can be used against the same type of contact. So we can the inverted diagram of your fixed partial denture shows the point contact of your contact which is marked with the pencil. You can see it. Okay. So we have the decreased aesthetics. When we come to the aesthetics are not that good because we can see there are spaces in between the buccal and the lingual contours. So it is always indicated in the posterior region, not at all in the anterior region. Posterior mandibular teeth, first mandibular or the second mandibular teeth are the indications for your conical type of contact. The material always we go for the metal ceramic or the all metal type of material for the fabrication of these. Now we have the sanitary contact. Okay, so when the patient is having any periodontal problems, to overcome all the periodontal problems, we cannot ask the patient to have a removable partial denture. If the patient is if the patient is looking for the fixed partial denture, in other patients we can go for a sanitary contact. We have this saddle-like area, or it is a dome bullet shaped area present for your tooth structure. We have at least 3 to 4 millimeters of gap in between your ridge and the contact. So basically, at least 3 millimeter of mucosa should be left behind, which is given in the Schillinger, but the Rosenfeld says that it is around 4 millimeters. So basically, it will be a 3 millimeter area between your ridge and the contact. Okay. The modification of hygienic contact is the reverse belly or the fish belly contact. We can see the area is in such a way that it is inverted type of. So it is very easy to clean, and it is also known as a parallel type of contact. Okay. Arc type of contact or the parallel type of contact. It will be again various times it is asked in the SAQs in your languages exams. So the indications, it is indicated in the posterior area with minimal aesthetics. Contraindication, anterior region is always contraindicated. Materials can be all metal and the metal ceramic. So this concludes your topic. So basically, for reading this, you can uh, go for the Rosenstiel book. It is very nicely given in that book. Okay. So basically, it will come as a SAQ only, not LAQ. So we have the most important part, the classification, the definition, the classification. In classification, the classification given by the Rosenstiel, the Tillman, and the sub-classification in the Tillman. So these two classifications are sufficient for your exam point of view. Then there will be various MCQs on this topic. Okay, so read this topic very carefully. It have the more weightage for your MCQs and the ACQs. It is not asked For LAQs, many of the time it is asked for the SAQs and the MCQs. So basically, the most important factors for the takeaways from this lecture will be the definition. The definition should be from the glossary of the Poisson terms. What are the requisites for the ideal requirements for your Pontic? The how you can classify the contours of the ridge. The word classification should be known properly. The various techniques to counteract the ridge problems. Okay, there need to come for the considerations. What are the design considerations for the Pontic? Biological, mechanical, aesthetics. Then the classification of the Pontic, and then comes here the after the classification each and every Pontic in detail. The Pontic, the area of the contact of Pontic, the how it helps you in the maintaining all the areas, the advantages, the disadvantages, and the zone of the which area is basically used, which areas which Pontic is used is very important. The indications basically and the material used. So all should be learned properly from this seminar to make sure that for the start to end, make sure that each and every Pontic will be remembered properly. So this concludes today's topic. In the next class, we'll be starting with the lab procedures and in the